Hey guys, D.Bowie here, and this is 6k Lifestealer versus 8k Lifestealer. Let's talk about less hits. In the last video, we compared a 4k player with the 8k one. It gets pretty clear from the replay that as MMR increases, the difference between less hits at around the 11-minute mark gets smaller. Yeah, Fear has a little bit more, but it's very close. So there's a couple of subjects that are all entwined with less hitting that I want to talk about. The first one is less hitting under tower. Since both the 6k and the 8k player are against an X, they're going to less hit under the tower constantly, and we can actually compare both players way better, at least in the laning phase. So the first thing they do when they get in the lane is acquire a Quelling Blade, and they definitely know what they're doing with it. They know they are over the 80 damage threshold, so it's fairly easy to less hit under the tower, especially because Lifestealer has a very small damage window. If you didn't watch my video on less hitting under the tower, you should definitely check it out. But there are specific things about dealing with X that I want to mention that in the long run guarantee safe CS in the lane. You should never try to go for less hits closer to an X around the creep wave equilibrium spot. This is the best way for X to harass you, and even if you can passive lifesteal from X, it's just a bad trade. I like that the 6k player draws aggro from creeps, even if it means that he's less hitting under the tower, because at least he's not taking damage. As I said before, Lifestealer has huge and reliable attack damage with Quelling Blade, so he is Gucci. The 8k though does that, but he goes even further. He does something more important that can pass completely unnoticed. See how he pushes the lane here? The creep equilibrium was lightly broken, so Rubik wants to pull now, and the thing is, it's very hard to harass X close to the creep wave meeting point. If it's just you and some enemy creeps though, the trade is way more balanced. See how he makes use of the pull to go and harass him? He also waits a little bit to pop the skill. This guarantees overall more attacks on X, and I like that he goes for this trade when X is still level 2. If he was level 3, he was going to take way more harass, especially after the nerf to counter Helix. We can see the 6k doing something similar here. What happened was X harassing him with Berserker's Call, and Naix knows it's not dangerous to turn since there are no allied creeps there. Another important point to praise the 6k Lifestealer is that he tries to kill that large camp since he knows that X was showing the lane every time to be able to jungle those camps. While he gets them, he loses some of his own though, so that's on him. Let's be fair though, Fear had support in his lane since level 1, guaranteeing way more control and pressure over X. That was not the case for the 6k Lifestealer. And even then, he actually got pretty close to what Fear was able to achieve, at least less hit wise. We see another kill being possible, but pay attention how Fear doesn't commit the slow on X right away. Only when he's really far away from the creep wave he commits open wounds. Also, see how he didn't preemptly use his rage? This guarantees that the extra damage that the skill provides is not going to be tanked by Berserker's Call armor. The 6k player gets a kill with the support rotation, and while I don't like they fought in the middle of the creeps, they didn't have too much of a choice. It's also a cool idea to infest a large creep like that and immediately go back to the lane. He is actually regening and farming, so it's pretty good. Item timings. The 6k Lifestealer got Armlet 2 minutes after Fear. Not necessarily because of net worth difference, he opted for an early PMS and Blightstone before finishing the item. I feel like going for the same order that Fear went for is better, especially because they are against an X. Against an X, it's very unlikely that you're going to use that Blightstone to get extra damage in the tower, and in that case, having Armlet ready first is undeniably a better choice. The Permanent Shield could surprise you, but the 6k player has a CM in his team. He probably wants to use CM Aura to farm the jungle way more active than most players would be able to, because he can use Rage more often. So he's going to be against Ancients, and the damage block is just better so that he can maintain a very high HP threshold. While I like the item, I don't feel like he actually synchronized his actual play with the item. He only started going for the Ancients way later. He already had 2 points in Feast, and I don't feel like PMS was really all that needed. And this is the same problem with not going Armlet, right? It's okay to go Blightstone and you can even deal more damage to the tower and all that, but if he can't go for it, then he is not fully abusing his item timings and power spikes. And these are the small differences that we can see between 6 and very high MMR players like Fear. Another good aspect of PMS is the fact that you can damage block physical damage that comes from Blade Mail. But yeah, not a big fan, but it's not a bad item either. Game impact. The 8k had a lot of impact. Him playing slightly more aggressive as well as going for Armlet first, he rotates with Earth Spirit very early, getting more kills. and propelling them towards the next tier 1 bottom tower. Yeah, none of the 6k supports actually showed up in the lane, but they do have a spirit breaker, so maybe he should have asked. We can't know if Fear called their spirit there. To be honest, Slark is a way harder to gank hero than Centaur, but I wouldn't say that leaving the lane free is also the answer. Fear abuses his armlet power spike perfectly. They get another kill on Centaur, and only then Fear finally backs off the paddle with a TP back into the shrine. The 6k player focused in farming way more. The enemy team indeed has very hard to gank heroes, but even if the gank goes poorly, they could try to get buildings afterwards. If you pay attention to his team, the reason the 6k player didn't TP bottom to help them was because his armlet wasn't completed. Without that PMS, he would be fight ready, and he kinda wastes a power spike by just farming the lane with the hero. The first siege he participates is around 15 minutes, pretty late for an Axe that actually got pretty good farm in the early game. Skill usage. Both players seem to be very aware on how to use rage and open wounds. This sentence might be weird for you to hear since the skills are so simple, yet using them at the right time and saving them when they are not needed is a clear indicator of a high level player. Pay attention to these clips from Fear. In some fights, using slow and rage right away to focus on target is the best play by far, especially when you're not high on HP. One of the problems that some players face in the mid to late game is that they commit both skills at once and they end up dying before the next cooldown shows up, when in reality you could probably use rage and then use open wounds later, or the opposite. It really depends if the enemies are stuck, if there are other disables going on and stuff like that. A lot of people only think about open wounds as a slow, and while it is a pretty good slow, it's also one way to go back to full HP. It's all pretty much a satanic. So sometimes it's just better, you know, to use rage, take some damage, and then use open wounds to get back to full HP and have your rage again. Another good aspect of not using both skills every time you want to kill someone is your mana pool. Lifestealer doesn't have a huge mana pool, and in this game, both players never went back to base. A huge part of this is keeping your mana up, and we have to give Fear even more props since he didn't have a Crystal Maiden in his team. The 6k player approaches the fights very similarly. See how he only commits rage when he goes for this fight. The truth is, in crowded fights, people won't be moving so much and you don't always need to use open wounds right away. By saving it, if the enemy re-engages here, maybe he has the HP regen to actually get on them and turn the fight later when rage gets ready. We can see in this fight the 6k dying because he committed 2 skills at once. Yeah, killing X straight away is pretty good, but his positioning in the cooldown of rage and open wounds was slightly suboptimal, allowing Sand King to control him before he was able to deal more damage. And then Shadow Fiend responds with no one there and they lose. And this is on the 6k player. Well, this wraps up for today. If you enjoyed this video, please guys, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see the extended version of this video, check the link in the description. Pugna is a platform where you can learn from people like Chessie, Fogged, Waga, Monib, and get better at the game. They have now great content on the new patch, and if you want to raise your MMR, it's a great time. If getting MMR is not enough for you, you should definitely check out our new partner, Lootcase. There, you can find and buy fabulous cosmetics and go from zero to hero.